Welcome back to Blender, everyone. I'm your host, the Housecoat Gamer, and today, well, you can tell I've been busy. But first, let's get to the obvious. The boats. This is the... I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. The Romulan Command Warbird from Picard. You know, that thing. This was a pain to make because of all the odd angles that I had to play with. Now, I'm of the personal opinion that whoever made these things before Picard just made a sculpture in real life, a prototype, had it laser scanned in, and then they played with it because yeah, so many odd angles to work with here that I'm gonna presume that was handmade. Of course, something I know wasn't entirely handmade was the Keith here, the Romulan shuttle from Lower Decks. Well, Romulan mini warbird. It's not perfect, but then again, neither was the ortho I used to make it. Double wing. Pain in the rear end. But I managed to build it. Barely. The Snakehead Fighter. Another pain in the rear end, thanks to the very superfluous cockpit layout. I mean, seriously, this cockpit is insane. External bracing? That's just getting in the way of the view. A much larger Romulan bomber, the Dia Viao, I think. It's one of the warbirds from Picard. Along with another Picard warbird bomber thing that looks kind of like the B2 Spirit. I hate dianthol and anthol. Just, they hide so much of the profile, and it's painful. Of course, then we get to the parts that I actually started enjoying. Rebuilding the STD fleet again. You might recognize the Walker. Although, once again, I gave her the torpedo pod from hell. Gotta love the MLRS torpedo pod. Took a lot of inspiration from the Poseidon for that one. The McGee, again, though in this case I decided to incorporate a little bit of Ages of the Federation here. Still an earlier model boat, but you get the idea. The Cardenas, once again. With enough torpedo launchers to make anyone regret living. If you guys don't like it, it's entirely within your purview. But I kind of enjoyed trying to make this thing as close to Ages of the Federation while not being a total clone as much as possible. And then came the boat that kind of inspired this whole thing. This is the Sombra, my remade Sombra, with... oh dear. I guess I pushed the nacelles in a little too far, because now they're clipping through the saucer section. Oh well, my mistake. Something I think I can fix. I mean, didn't take me that long to build the model, and, well, most of it's still salvageable. Regardless, as stated, I decided, why the hell not? I might as well rebuild the damn thing, utilizing elements of both the NX and the Bonaventure, as you might have noticed from the design of the deflector dish here, and the general design of the secondary hull. Still, I think I can salvage her. Just need to move those nacelles back a little further before having to completely rebuild the domes here. Oh well, mistakes were made. It says a lot about the Malachowski that the only way to TMP this thing was just to turn it into the Anton. Really, it says a lot. Whether that's about me, the Malachowski, or the people who designed that thing, I don't know which. Of course, everyone recognizes the crossfield. Of course, fixing her was not easy. Now, fun fact, I did find a good ortho of sorts of the AOTF Malachowski, not the Malachowski, the crossfield. And I was tempted to rebuild her, but then I was told that that was after I started building this thing. So yeah, still has huge impulse engines because she's a fast science ship. Has that dip that suggests where the cutout would have been had this ship, you know, done the stupid. And more of the design elements, of course, were taken more from the Yorktown from Legacy. The Hoover, again, nebula-ized crossfield. And then we come to the ones that I've actually been kind of looking forward to talking about. The STD Klingon fleet, which I've completely redone. Now, you might go, what the hell with this one? He just gutted what looks like a D4, widened it, and made some modifications to it by giving it 2 heads and a pair of super heavy disruptor cannons. That's kind of the point. You see, upon further review, I decided, you know, the Klingons were based off the Soviet Union, and most of their ships, vehicles, and the like are, well, basically just derivatives of earlier designs. And according to the lore, this is, by the way, official sources lore, FASA and Star Trek Adventures and the like, they all generally agree that the Klingon Empire and its general territories are not exactly resource-rich. Not as bad as Cardassia, but bad enough, so I figured, if they can't afford to make new ships, recycle the old ones. So, decent explanation, especially considering that we see so many TMP-era ships in, well, TNG onwards. Now, real life, I get it, this is more of a cutting production costs thing, but it does make some sense. This one, of course, is the Charg. And I took the head of a D7, though it really should be a D4. Couldn't find a good ortho, so I just stuck a D7 head on and called it a day. And a heavily modified D5 head with 8 disruptor cannons mounted to it. as well as a couple of beam emitters for all the theta radiation goodness. Because this head's completely uninhabited, this one's the command head. And this one's the one with all the theta radiation and the guns associated with it. The Quarg. A rebuild of the D4. Again, D7 head, but could have been modified as well. It works. Broadside cruiser, because Starfleet kind of makes everybody a joke when it comes to these sorts of things. But the Klingons couldn't afford to build a brand new design, so just like the Russians do nowadays, they more or less tacked on a brand new armor package, which gives it a lot more broadside capability. Though, I will be fair here and say I managed to find an ortho that has a very, very ant-esque secondary impulse drive section here. Lots of reactors and all that. The Sec would, in this case, would be a D5 that had been rebuilt. And in this case, it's more of a response to what Archer did during the augments. Hi, let's use the grappler and knock out your warp drive. This is meant more as a shield. The giant armor plate is meant to prevent that sort of thing from most dorsal angles. Plus, you know, Klingon civil wars. Lots of attacks from above. And nobody likes to lose their warp nacelles. The Bortas Bleer. 2 giant beam emitters, a couple of beam cannons here, maybe some disruptor nodes. But this thing's mostly an artillery rebuild of the D4. Complete with 2 giant impulse engines here, a giant impulse thruster here, and, well, this one I actually took inspiration from attack helicopter rocket pods. Those things are giant torpedo launchers. This thing's an artillery ship. Of course, everyone recognizes the sarcophagus. I decided to rebuild her because I wasn't entirely happy with her. That and general boredom. Just, hey, I'm running out of starships to build. Because the orthos I need to build more ships don't exist yet. Because I have to rely on somebody else for that. Fun times. Speaking of better orthos, I did manage to find a better ortho of the Accuser, so I could rebuild her. Congratulations if anybody wants her. Have fun. But then we come to the ships that are truly unique. The Theseus. That's right, the recently released TOS Theseus is now fully available for anyone who wants her. Okay, I have to put these things up on ModDB, and I haven't been doing that recently. The Kerala, obviously. Oh dear. I mounted one of the warp nacelles on upside down. That's a major gaffe on my part. No, well, easy fix. All I have to do is just cut that nacelle off, copy this one, and mirror it. Completely forgot. I'll fix it before I put it up. And no, I haven't gunned this thing up. And now we come to the real star of the show. I bet you're wondering why the hell I just built a Von Talk. Two of them, in fact. One that is animation ready, the other isn't. Well, the reason for this is simple. This is not the Von Talk, actually. It is the Tuyuk, the Blood Moth, a refit of this particular ship, which has wings that are longer, broader, and have those giant sensor pods. And less guns, because power requirements demand less guns. In other words, this is the first depiction of a Star Trek Adventures boat ever. I fully admit that I am suffering the sin of pride when I look at this thing. And just in case the home Trek people aren't happy with the body, to be fair, I'm not happy because, well, the pipe work was a pain in the rear end. And I suspect people are going to have criticisms about that too, but I'm beating you to it. I'm not happy. But the wings are another story. Because all I had was a description of half again as long, was twice as long, half again as wide. So, this is the closest I get to that. And nobody can tell me that I made a mistake, because all I had to work with was a description. That said, the wings move. The home Trek people are going to be happy with that. Oh, and in case anybody wants to texture these things, and I mean the Klingon ships, someone suggested over on the Bridge Commander Discord that a World War II German camo pattern might actually be applicable. You know, the polka dot patterns you see on BF 109s. I would have applied one of those if one was available. But yeah, that's the massive modeling update over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, I've been slowing down because I have a lack of orthos to play with. Though, again, I'm probably going to have to fix the Sombra. Good lord. How did I not even notice this? Oh well. You know the old saying. Houseco Gaming signing off.